show Grizzly, bitch.
What up, me militia? I'm Mean Joe Grizzly, and when I'm not on a dangerous alien world experiencing the ultimate hunt, I'm at the Grizzly Cave watching and reviewing movies while, of course, crushing beers. And I am back to bring y'all my review of the latest entry in the Predator franchise, Predator Badlands. And after two great entries with Prey and Killer of Killers, can returning director Dan Trachtenberg deliver another hit, or does his stellar run come to an end? Let's find out. This is Grizzly Grade Reviews. After being casted out by his clan, a runt Yatija named Dek and an unlucky ally embark on a treacherous journey on an alien world full of some of the most dangerous creatures in the universe in order to hunt the ultimate prey and secure an unattainable trophy. So ever since Disney acquired the rights to the Predator and Alien franchises, it's my personal opinion that they have delivered some of the best entries in both of those franchises thus far. And I know that some fans do not want to admit that, but it's true. And it all began with Prey in 2022, where director Dan Trachtenberg delivered us a very unique experience with a Predator film, doing something that has never been done before. All that we have gotten up to that point was Predator in the jungle fighting commandos, Predator in the city fighting cops, and then you had the movie Predators, where they brought some of the most dangerous humans on Earth to this remote planet in order to hunt them, and that was a cool enough concept. But it was something that still felt very familiar and didn't feel like it was anything super unique. And then when Prey is released, where you have pretty much a period piece where you have a predator with very primitive tech going up against the Comanche Nation, that was something I felt was so needed in this franchise, and it was a bold swing, and thankfully it completely paid off, and it became one of the best films in the franchise. And this completely invigorated interest in the franchise and set us on the path that we are now. And earlier this year, Dan Trachtenberg returned and he delivered us an animated anthology film called Killer of Killers. And that puts the Predator back in different periods in time where he faces off against Vikings, and then another Predator will face off against samurai and ninja back in the feudal Japan. And then you have one where a Predator was taking on a fighter pilot in World War II. And all of that was absolutely awesome. So then we come to Predator Badlands. And when this movie was first announced, there was a lot of mixed news coming out about it, where it was a tale of two sisters who were trying to find one another. And then that eventually evolved into a movie that was from the Predator's perspective. And that's something that we have not seen yet before. And it was something that definitely piqued my interest and piqued a lot of interest of fans alike. And that is something that is a very bold and risky move. It is something that is either going to completely work or it's not going to work at all if it is not done correctly. So the question is, did Dan Trachtenberg pull this off? Did he deliver us a yet another unique experience that would have everyone enjoying this franchise once again? And the answer is absolutely yes. And not, in fact, hell yes. This movie was awesome. So starting out with the positives is the cast, and the cast is very limited here. There's only really 3 characters in the movie that we follow, and they are all pretty damn good in their roles. And I know I'm absolutely going to butcher this name, but in the role as Dek, which plays the runt Yatija, is Demetrius Kobamentagi. And for someone who is playing a alien creature who is damn near nonverbal, he only speaks in his language and we get nothing but subtitles, he displays the perfect balance of human and non-human emotions, in a sense that we as humans cannot relate to anything that is not inhuman. And it takes a good writer to actually give something that is not human emotion. And I believe that not only was his character written well, but I believe that he does a very good job of displaying all of those emotions and that driven sense of purpose, and even just embodying the drive and the motivations of the Yatija race. His need to be accepted by his clan to take his rightful place by their side, and his drive to capture the ultimate trophy in order to prove himself, is something that humans can relate to. And that drive makes his character so compelling to watch, because you are truly rooting for something that is something that you're not supposed to be able to relate to, because we're human and he's not. And I believe it is due to the performance of Demetrius Kanamatagi. I believe he does a fantastic job of displaying not only the physical aspects of that character, but also the mannerisms of that character, in which he is very stern, he is very warrior-like, he has this drive that he has to do everything alone, that he doesn't need any help, and yet in the end he becomes very human in a way where he understands that it is okay to accept help as long as you achieve your goal. And then you have Ellie Fanning, who plays a dual role here, where she plays his companion known as Thea, who is a Weyland-Yutani synthetic android. And he finds her in a very devastated state where literally half of her body has been ripped off, and she becomes his guide slash confidant throughout his journey. And it's cool how they reconcile in the way the Predator Society works, where he cannot accept any help, and yet she says, "I'm not helping you, you're using me as a tool." And that was something I thought was very uniquely done, because a predator would never accept help from anybody. Not normal predators, not what we know them as. But if he looks at a synthetic as not a living being, and it is used as a tool, then it is perfectly acceptable for him to do so. And I thought that was a pretty unique thing that they did there. Thea becomes Dak's like companion, aka his guide. Like, she's telling him about the planet, about the flora and fauna of the planet, what's dangerous, what he needs to look out for. And in that way, she is fulfilling that role as a tool. But at the same time, she is also the lighthearted aspect of this movie. She is the heart of the movie, where she is bringing the humanity out of Dak. And that is something that works very well. She also provides some comic relief, and even though it didn't really land for me every time, it is something that was nice to break up the seriousness of the movie from time to time. And then Ellie Fanning's other role, Tessa, who is essentially the twin sister of Thea, where she is the more robotic, less like no emotion, fixated on the mission, will do anything to serve Weyland-Yutani. And she is the main antagonist of the movie, where she wants to complete Weyland-Yutani's goal, where essentially Weyland-Yutani is after the same creature slash trophy that Dak is after. They're after this one specific creature. I believe it's known as the Callus, and they want it for their own purposes, while Dak wants it to obtain his honor and his place by his clan. So that puts them in direct contact with each other. And with Thea essentially being on Dak's side, it's one of those things where it creates this nice little conflict between both parties. And it's really cool because it's kind of a callback to the Alien franchise, where it creates this little continuity to where some synthetics are more emotional than others. You have the synthetic android in the first movie, which I believe his name was Rook. He was the more mission driven. He will kill whoever he has to in the name of Weyland-Yutani. And then you have Bishop from Aliens, who was a good guy. He was trying to help everybody survive LD-46. And I thought that was a good little continuity thread right there that they created. Also, too, with Weyland-Yutani in this story, it was really cool to see that they kind of continued what they were doing with Alien Earth, where Weyland-Yutani is not just looking for xenomorphs. They're looking for all sorts of alien life, and they will do anything they can to obtain it, to study it, and weaponize it, or turn it into some kind of a medicine, or whatever, in the name of preserving humanity. I thought the story was very well done, and even though it's very simple, you have the hero's journey, but instead they put a little twist on it to where the hero of the story is someone who we normally perceive as the villain, which is the Predator. You have Dek, who is a runt, and in his society, just like in a lot of warrior races that we've had here in the past on Earth, they don't like weakness, and they cull weakness. They don't care if you're smaller than everybody else. They consider that a weakness and you must be destroyed. And despite all that hardship, despite him being smaller and weaker than his brethren, he still persists and he still strives and moves towards greatness no matter what the odds are. And to prove himself and to claim his spot right there beside his brethren, he decides to do something that is pretty much insurmountable. He decides to go after a prey that every single Yatija before him has attempted and has failed. And not only that, the moment he lands on the planet of Gena, he is immediately attacked by the flora and fauna of this planet. Everything on this planet is deadly and is trying to kill him. And even though we are following an alien warrior on an alien planet who is barely audible, that is not even speaking our language, we have to read subtitles to understand his language, we as moviegoers and the audience still find ourselves rooting for this guy. Even though in the past, his race has been the antagonist of every single film of this franchise. We are genuinely concerned for his well-being. And even more so, you have the character of Thea, his companion along the way. Thea is a synthetic android. Thea is not a human. Does it have human emotions? Yes, but it does. She does not have the ability to display emotions on the same level that we do. And yet we still can feel her lightheartedness, her sincerity, her willingness to survive and be reunited with her sister, to help Dek along his journey and to essentially assist him in his mission. And that is because of the humanity that was injected into these characters by the writer. And that is a testament to just how well written and how good of a story is being told. And on top of all that, this movie is action-packed from start to finish. The moment this movie starts, this movie hits the ground running, and it's nothing but action throughout the movie without sacrificing any story whatsoever. And this is high-flying action. This isn't just a bunch of explosions and gunplay and stuff like that. There's like sword play, there's slaying beasts, there's these jumping through trees and trying to avoid getting eaten by some of these monsters that's on this planet. It is just a thrill ride, and it's suspenseful throughout this movie. And even if it does sacrifice some of those horror elements, I do think that them leaning more into this high adventure style, I believe that it was a good choice. The creature effects in this movie are absolutely awesome. The designs of the flora and fauna and their unique abilities of this planet Gena are so damn cool and unique looking, and I was expecting it to be this bland paint by numbers, just throw some shit on the screen that looks mean, and that was all I was expecting. And instead I walked away seeing a variety of different alien species with all these different powers and abilities and strengths and weaknesses. And I thought that was really refreshing to see someone actually put some imagination and some thought into these monsters and creatures that this predator is facing while he's charging towards his ultimate goal. And what's even more refreshing is it's all done in CGI, and normally I am a practical effects guy. There's some prosthetics and practical effects in this, but when I tell you that the CGI in this movie looks incredible, it looks great. The planet is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and all the creatures, even though they are alien and very foreign looking and you really can't compare much of them to anything that we see in the real world, they all look very menacing, very realistic, and very scary considering that they are CGI. The uncanny valley effect is very low in this movie, at least it was for me. Now, it's not on the same level as like Alien Romulus' CGI, but for this year, it might be some of the best CGI I've seen this year. And one thing that I definitely want to address and give kudos on is the gore and the violence. The gore and the violence of this movie is awesome. It is there. It has not went anywhere. It might be one of the goriest films in the Predator franchise. The only difference is it's not human blood. And that's why it got a PG-13 rating. Now, pushes the PG-13 rating to the max, because there is all kinds of violence in this. There's stuff getting split in half. There's stuff getting crushed, skulls getting ripped out, spines getting ripped out. All the stuff that you see predators do is happening here. It is just happening to alien creatures and synthetic humans, and not to actual people. And for those of you that don't know that, that might sound very trivial, but that is stuff that the MPAA and the ratings boards take very seriously when they're handing out ratings for these movies. And when you do something very small, like change the color of blood, or change the violence that is happening from a human to an animal or something like that, it lightens that rating, and it makes zero sense, but that is just how the ratings board works. So this movie isn't less violent than any of the other Predators before it. It's just not happening to humans, because there's literally no human characters in this movie. So the gore's there. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not gory. It's very gory. It's just not happening to humans. Moving on to the mix aspect, I think that Dek's design could have been better. Now, that doesn't mean that I did not like the design, and I understand that he is supposed to be like a fledgling predator that hasn't reached his status as a warrior in the clan, and I completely understand that. I do think that his like appearance and his like apparel that he's wearing is very basic and very minimal. And even though, like with Prey, for example, we had a more primitive predator in that one, I still felt like the design of that predator was unique enough. And that's not to say that Dex is not. I just wanted a little bit more in his design to stand out a little bit better than what it did. And I'm going to put this in a mixed, because I don't know anywhere else to put it, but I have a little bit of concern for the future of the franchise. Now, I stated earlier that I think that the high-flying adventure aspect of this movie was a great choice, and it was a big gamble, and I believe that gamble paid off. My problem is I don't want every Predator movie to be like this. I want each Predator movie to have a degree of action, adventure, and horror, but I don't want them to lean too hard into one genre, because I believe that it pigeonholes the brand and it honestly waters it down. For instance, I don't want the Predator franchise to become Transformers, and I am not saying that that is what this movie is like, because it's nowhere close. It's so much better than any of the Transformers movies. I just don't want these movies to go completely away from the horror aspect, and I don't want the Predators to always be the good guys moving forward. I think it is fine for this movie, and if they want to continue this direction maybe in another movie, I'm okay with that. However, I just don't want it to continue. I don't want this franchise to become super family friendly. I want it to be something that is more for adults and young adults, where the next one is a rated R movie because he is facing off against humans, or something on those lines. I don't want this to become the norm, even though I really enjoyed it, and I do think that the high-flying adventure action aspect was a great choice. And on to the negatives, the humor just didn't work for me. I'm not going to tell you that it didn't get any kind of a laugh out of me, because there was a couple of times where I got a few laughs, but overall, it kind of felt very Marvel-esque with its forced humor. It wasn't nearly as egregious, but I did feel a little bit like it was being forced on us and didn't really necessarily drive the plot. They were finding better ways to make Thea's character more relatable and human without having to be a joke machine that's throwing out little quips and jokes a mile a minute. That's just something that I'm always going to be very harsh on Disney for, because they tend to go completely overboard with their brand of humor, and I don't want that for this franchise. So that was something that was definitely a negative for me, but it wasn't something that was super, super like condemning to the movie. And my final gripe is essentially piggybacks off the last one, Disneyfication. That's a word I just made up. I don't want this franchise to get Disney-fied. As in, I don't want this franchise to be just something that they look at as a way of selling merchandise, where they bring out all these cutesy little creature characters so that they can sell toys. because in my opinion, they 100% did that with a specific little creature in this movie. You have a Grogu-esque character in this movie, and it didn't bother me that much, but it was blatant what they were doing there. And I hate to tell Disney, you don't have to make these cutesy little characters to sell toys and to sell merchandise, because Predator figures sell very well and people like to collect stuff from the Predator universe. You don't have to create a character just for that, and that's something that I don't want them to do. We don't need multiple Grogus in the Predator franchise. We don't need a R2-D2 character in Alien. We just need them to keep that kind of stuff out of both of these franchises, and that's something that I hope moving forward they'll just scrap and not really try to do again. Yeah, let's quit with the mascot. Stop that shit. Nobody wants that. But guys, I thought this movie was fantastic. I absolutely loved this movie, and I felt like it was a very refreshing entry in the franchise. This is 3 times in a row now that Dan Trachtenberg has delivered a hit in my book and delivered us 3 unique experiences. And quite frankly, a lot of this stuff is things that fans have been asking for years now. And that's something that I find it really disheartening that I see a lot of diehard Predator fans bitching about this movie and saying that, oh, they woked up Predator, which the woke thing is getting so old. Not everything is woke because it's different. And I feel like that if you are not a diehard Predator fan, don't listen to the Predator fan that's bitching about it. Go see the movie for yourself, and I guarantee you're going to have a good time, because I am a Predator fan, and I absolutely loved it. I felt like that almost every aspect of this movie was great. And honestly, I can't wait to see what Dan Trachtenberg does next, if he is going to continue to be the captain of this franchise moving forward, because right now, to me, he's 3 for 3. He hasn't missed yet. And he has definitely kept me excited for the future of the franchise. So with all that being said, Predator Badlands gets a 4.5 out of 5 and is definitely Grizzly grade guaranteed. Go out and see it, man. Support this movie, because believe it or not, the Predator franchise has not been a big box office success ever. And that's really hard for me to believe, but if you look it up, you'll see what I'm talking about. We need this movie to do well, and we need this so that we can continue this run that we're having right now, because right now we're on the best run the franchise has ever seen. So go out and see it. It's going to bring this video to an end. Thank you all so much for your continued support and patience. Without y'all, this channel isn't possible. And if you like this video, like it. And if you like it enough, please head over to the channel, click the subscribe and bell button so you never miss a video. Also, please follow me on all social media platforms so you get channel updates, movie news, and all forms of badassery. If you click over here somewhere, you have my complete playlist for Grizzly Grade reviews. These are all of my most recent reviews. And if you click down here, this will be a specific video, probably the last Grizzly Grade review that I did. So if you don't mind, go check those out. And remember, I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.